I don't have a man or any legit prospects. My ovarian reserve is diminishing by the second. I need to flash freeze your grandchildren.
I don't want frozen grandchildren. I want live warm ones.
Oh my God, somebody said the best thing at a test screening of ours that I would love to steal. She said it's like a rom-com where in the end she falls in love with herself. I love that sentiment. I don't know if that's what I set out to make. I think I set out to make like a funny, irreverent comedy, and I think it did sort of veer into a love letter to women that are just trying to figure it out and trying to take care of themselves. But I would say it's like kind of a fun, raunchy chick comedy with some kind of serious themes as far as like fertility and loneliness. But yeah, it's about egg freezing, which is what I did when I was alone in the pandemic. I think I had so many, as you saw in the film, tough conversations with my dad, very shaming conversations with my dad, who could not get over my ex-boyfriend. When me and my ex-boyfriend broke up, he just couldn't get past it and kind of kept bugging me for grandchildren. Where are my grandchildren? Where are my grandchildren? I'm like, I have an older brother. Go talk to my older brother. And I felt this mounting anger and shame surrounding my fertility, and more than that, surrounding being single in my 30s after having been in a relationship for a long time and feeling like all my friends were getting married, all my friends were having babies, and just this onslaught that you hit in your 30s, which is just like everyone is getting married and everyone is having babies, and I don't want to settle. I have never settled for anything in my life. I'm not going to start now, but feeling like the world is sort of like, well, maybe you should settle. Maybe it's time to settle. So I felt like even before I froze my eggs, this was something I really wanted to speak to, and I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it yet. And then when I started to get into my mid-30s, and I was like, I think I should probably freeze my eggs because I'm still single, and there are no prospects that I'm like ready to get knocked up anytime soon. Then I was like, I'm going to go through this tough process. And I knew it was going to be tough, and I knew it was going to be super expensive. And the way that I justified it in my head was, I'm going to document it as a filmmaker would, and I'm going to write a film about it, and I'll make it. And that makes me feel a little better. That's such a great question. Honestly, I was kind of horrified by it, because when I was bloated on my couch and feeling sick because I had just injected myself twice, and I'm like, did I screw up those meds? Am I dying? I'm like looking for a movie to comfort me, and I'm searching through and I'm Googling fertility films, and every single one, it felt like, was about a couple, usually a middle-aged couple, trying to get pregnant. And I was like, this isn't my story. This doesn't reflect my experience. It doesn't resonate. And those films are beautiful and meaningful and necessary, but my story, I didn't feel existed in cinema. So it even further, I was like, I have to make this movie if for no other reason than some chick somewhere while she's getting her eggs frozen can watch it and feel a little bit less alone. Oh, yeah. A guy that I was talking to that I'd met on like Hinge called me Baby Farm. Like, I was talking to him, and I think he wanted to like hang out, and I said, I have to be totally honest, I'm going through this process. And it was a very confessional moment for me to share with this kind of new guy in my life. I'm like, I'm freezing my eggs, because to me it felt like admitting, I'm old, B, I think I might want kids and I haven't found somebody. And he called me Baby Farm, and he said it in kind of like a joking way, but I was like, okay, so this is going in the film, because I feel like you don't know how the world is going to respond until you're actually in it, and you realize that there's a wide range of opinions coming from, like you saw in the baby shower scene, of women kind of being like, oh, that's an interesting choice. Isn't that like super bad for you? And doesn't that cause early menopause? And isn't that super expensive? And don't you need like 1,000 eggs to even have it be viable, to even get a baby out of it? Like, there's all of that. And then there's guys sort of being like, whoa, she wants to have a baby tomorrow, calm down. So I think that was the most interesting part of like seeing how I knew that I would have a tough time with it. I didn't realize how everyone around me was going to sort of have an opinion about it. I have my own ideas of womanhood in my head, probably established by my mother, the women in my family. My mom is an immigrant from Nicaragua, so that side of my family, it's all about strength. It's all about, we don't need a man. We can raise our children ourselves. We can. My mom really wanted me to have a career because her mom was a working woman. She was a working woman, and so my whole life I was kind of taught, a man will be there, don't worry about a man, which I think was quite feminist and made me such a feminist. But nobody warned me that I could hit an age, not have a man, and then they're like, oh, wow. So there's this other issue about having children. We didn't really have that issue because we had kids really young and still somehow managed to have a career. I have a career and no kids. So I do feel like the ideals of womanhood, they sort of sometimes only really fit for the time period, and they're constantly evolving, hopefully to become more radical, to include more women, and to not shame women so much, because I think getting married at 21, 22, oh my God, my mom was like 22 when she got married, I think, and had me at like 24, is like, that's not what she wanted for me, and it's not what I wanted for myself. So the beauty is I don't think I will encourage my daughter, if I have a daughter, to get married so young. So it is about sort of having to weigh my ideals of womanhood that I was raised with former ideals, with trying to change it in so that it can fit today's generation. Oh God, I hope so. I mean, that's why I make movies, right? I'm just trying to make movies for women that hopefully creates a little bit of understanding from a wide audience, so that even one person can see it and be like, that's kind of badass to inject yourself, and it's kind of amazing to be a woman and what our bodies can do. I think for me, I had such imposter syndrome surrounding directing. I didn't go to film school. I went to acting school, and I'd had a career as an actress. I fell into writing to create roles for myself as an actress. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome with my writing for a long time. And then South by MFA helped me with that. And then I had a career as a writer. And so I think directing felt like this whole other world of where the real filmmakers that came out of USC and grew up on Scorsese, and I grew up on musicals and horror films. Like, I was like, I don't think that I will fit in this crowd. But I think the thing that was my saving grace through this entire process was that I was so fiercely protective of my story, and that I could not give it to a different director. That is what gave me the strength and the confidence to be able to do it myself, was that I was like, well, I'll die on this hill, I'm not going to let my vision fall apart in another director's hands. Oh my God, that's so funny that you say that. I don't usually have the zingers, but anytime somebody around me has a zinger, I write it in my notes app. So I have a whole list of just funny lines. Somebody said the other day, I thought it was so funny. I was at a baby shower, and all the women around me were married, and they were trying to give me advice about how to get a husband, which is a very typical occurrence in my life. And everybody's like, you know what? You just be yourself. You're so lovely. You just, open yourself up to the possibilities of the universe. And this girl goes, just settle. You can turn him into anything you want him to be. I was like, that's so good. I'm putting it in a screenplay. That's what I always do. I'm an observer of everyone and human behavior, and that's my favorite. I think that comes from my history in acting and sociology, and I'm fascinated by humans, so I'm always writing stuff down. So my real best friend in real life was pregnant at her wedding, and I did not know. And she was freaking out a little bit, but she obviously was held it together a little bit better than Sheila does in the movie. But I did do Molly at a wedding. It was not with the bride. it was a mistake. I think we were all rolling so hard and we couldn't even listen to the speeches happening because we were like vibing and we like needed to touch each other, and it was such an I was like, I don't recommend doing this to everyone. My friend was lying in the grass next to the restrooms at one point, and people were surrounding her thinking that she was like dehydrated, and I was like, she just did Molly. It was her first time. I'm like, why did we give her Molly for the first time at a wedding? So it was sort of like a combination between my best friend in real life having her first, being pregnant with her first baby and freaking out, and then also the time that I did Molly at a wedding for no reason, no idea, couldn't tell you why. That was a choice. It was a choice. Oh, this double standard for men. Of course, yes. I mean, just the biological. I mean, when we talk about how men can have kids in their 60s, 70s, how old can they? They can have kids always, and we sort of have this cutoff age, and it's different for every woman. By the way, it's different for every woman. I hate that everyone thinks 35 and it's over. It's not. It's very dependent on your own biology. So let's just get rid of that myth. But yeah, I think because of some of this archaic biological, these false narratives that have not been disproven publicly enough for people to understand that it's so varied. And I think also I see it a lot in dating. A lot of guys think that I want kids tomorrow because I froze my egg. So I feel like just something as simple as that makes dating its goals are different. I think the world thinks that a guy that is single at 40 is held out and he's, probably been focused on his career, and a woman that's single at 40, you're like, ooh, she's damaged goods. What happened there? She's probably crazy. So I hate all of that, and I hope my film sort of contributes to a different narrative. He has not yet. I don't know if he can. There's a lot of nudity in this movie. There's 3 sex scenes, a lot of tits. I don't know if I'll be showing my dad. I mean, I did show him a clip, and he was kind of mind blown. I don't know if he liked it. He was like laughing, and then he was like, did I say? I wouldn't say it. I'm like, Daddy, you literally said that. I don't know. It's my own artistic version of my life. But I think it's interesting because I think my dad's really proud of me, which is healing. Even if he hasn't seen it yet, he's really proud. I mean, part of it is that I don't know what comes next for me, right? People are like, where's Nelly a year later? And I'm like, I don't think that she's having a baby a year later. I mean, I'm not having a baby a year later. So I think for me, it's choose your own adventure. Does she take those eggs out of the freezer and does she have a baby on her own? Does she find the love of her life and decide she doesn't want kids altogether? Does she, is she the cool aunt in her 50s doing Molly at weddings still? Who knows? No shame, no shade, get it, girl. Whatever Nelly's doing, I'm proud of her.